Hi everyone, you're with Tesla Tom and thanks for joining us on Ludicrous Feed. So you may be aware there is currently an Australian parliamentary Senate inquiry looking at the usage and manufacture of electric vehicles in our country, and they are due to report on their findings in December. Interested stakeholders have been providing submissions which are publicly available on the Australian Parliament website. Today we are going to focus on the submission made by the Tesla Owners Club of Australia. Before we get started, just a quick thank you to all our loyal supporters. We are getting close to 1,500 subscribers at the time of posting this video. If you'd like to stay up to date with our latest videos, all you have to do is click on the subscribe button. The Tesla Owners Club of Australia, or TOCA as it's affectionately known, has over 400 members, of which I am proud to say that I am one of them. It is the official owners club in Australia and has a very strong relationship with Tesla. Its focus is obviously on Tesla ownership, but also providing support to early adopters of electric vehicles in general. Membership to the Tesla Owners Club of Australia allows you to access the very active club Facebook page, use of the Adapt to Loan program, and invitation to year-round social events. The club has also been strongly involved in the Round Australia Electric Highway, which proudly boasts three-phase charging for electric vehicles around the perimeter and through the centre of Australia, with an average of 300 kilometres spacing between charges. So what on earth is the deal with electric cars in Australia currently? Well, in a nutshell, not a lot. Uptake clearly lags behind the rest of the world. How did this happen? Why are we so far behind? We need to be leaders, not followers. I'll try to answer some of these questions through this submission. As the Senate debates the benefits of electric cars, we also need to be aware of parallel disruptive transport technologies such as autonomous vehicles. Having read through a few of these submissions, I'm certainly seeing a common theme when it comes to outlining the benefits of electric vehicle adoption. In its submission, TOCA discusses three major benefits: environmental, social and political, and economic. Let's start with environmental benefits. Electric cars are 3 to 4 times more efficient than their internal combustion engine or ICE counterparts, where a lot of energy is lost as heat and noise. This is important, especially if we continue to use a finite, non-renewable energy resource such as oil or coal. Studies have shown that an electric car produces half the carbon emissions of an ICE car when taking into account the manufacture, ongoing usage, and final disposal of the vehicle. As our electricity becomes cleaner, the adoption of electric vehicles will see our transport becoming cleaner with fewer emissions over time. This will ultimately help to limit the damage that extraction and processing of crude oil has on the environment as demand for this resource starts to wane. In terms of social and political benefits, more electric vehicles means overall improvement in urban air quality. Remember how people used to smoke in public places like restaurants, shopping malls, and hospitals? The air certainly feels cleaner now in these areas. Well, the same thing will happen to our roads too eventually. Similarly, with more electric vehicles, there will also be less noise pollution. We may actually be able to hold a conversation on a street corner finally one day. Electric cars are far more reliable than their ICE equivalents. An average petrol-powered car has over 2,000 moving parts in the drivetrain alone. An electric car has fewer than 20 in its powertrain. Less moving parts means less chance of breaking down. Believe it or not, Australia imports a shocking amount of fuel from overseas. At last count, over 80% of our oil is imported. That poses a major security risk to our national energy requirements. Worst case scenario, if there was a sudden event, such as a major political shift, or natural disaster, or terrorist attack, and our trade borders become compromised for some reason, we would only have a few days' worth of oil to use. Whereas if we could generate our own electricity, at least our country could still be on the move. There would be employment opportunities and a potentially new dawn in our automotive industry with electric cars. More on this later. And finally, there are of course economic benefits. As I alluded to earlier, without the need for imported oil, there would be a better balance of payments in terms of imports and exports. There would be an overall reduction in the cost of transport. Electric vehicles are cheaper to run. It costs between a third to a quarter to power an electric car per kilometre compared to an ICE car. Not only that, we wouldn't be subjected to the volatility in oil and fuel prices that we have been experiencing over the last 30 years. Electricity prices, though always increasing, are fairly predictable when compared to the price of petrol. And of course, employment opportunities can only benefit our economy, which leads me to the point of manufacturing opportunities. Australia clearly is rich in minerals and natural resources. We have the raw materials for battery production like lithium and nickel, so let's do something with it instead of just shipping it off to somewhere else. We still have an experienced workforce. The last car manufacturing plant shut down in South Australia last year in 2017. The car plants are still around. We still have these facilities which could be upgraded to the standards and automation required for electric vehicle manufacture. And importantly, we have the people in this country that can design and develop cars. This is a fantastic opportunity to keep this talent in the country rather than risk losing this skill set forever. So how does the Australian government help to accelerate the uptake of electric vehicles? First and foremost, public education. Set up websites, put up advertising, educate the populace on the benefits of electric vehicles. Let people experience what it's like to drive an electric vehicle. Make it familiar and comfortable for everyone rather than something to be wary of. Remove barriers like the luxury car tax that make a car like the Tesla almost unaffordable for a large majority of the population. Electric cars are unnecessarily expensive in Australia in a large part due to our taxation. Tax reform needs to occur too, especially when it comes to businesses claiming transport costs. There's too much confusion around whether electricity to charge an electric car counts as a claimable business expense. Without this clarity, people will sadly run straight back into the greasy arms of an internal combustion engine. Our government needs to do so much more. Come on guys, you are elected for a reason. Invest in research into electric vehicle technology. Train the workers for a future potential electric car manufacturing sector. Fund industry along the supply chain. Support the purchase of stationary batteries on a personal level like the Tesla Powerwall, or perhaps a bit more large scale like the Powerpack. The South Australian battery has been so successful at stabilising that state's electricity network that the critics finally have nothing to say anymore. Lead by example. Use electric cars for government fleets. You've got a captive audience right there. Let's have a conversation about the fuel excise. Contrary to Barnaby Joyce's claim, electric car owners are not tax evaders. I would say many of us would be amenable to paying a usage or distance-based levy that's fair. Let's transition towards that, but continue the fuel excise on top of the new levy as a disincentive to purchasing ICE vehicles. And of course, we need a national emissions standard. Oh yes, indeed we do. Without this one single important policy, then people will throw their arms up and say, well, why the heck should I buy an electric car? When this prehistoric, gas-guzzling, noise-polluting, carbon monoxide spewing, exploding steam generator on 4 wheels will do me just fine, mate. Members of Parliament, I'm on my knees and pleading with you. Wake up. Lead our nation into the future. And to finish off, and this final slide will make a lot more sense for those of us who already own electric vehicles, our charging infrastructure really needs to work better. There needs to be more rapid DC chargers on our highways, especially in a country such as this size. We need to ease restrictions and bylaws for those living in strata situations like apartments and townhouses. It needs to be easier to install home chargers for those dwellings, especially with urban development and gentrification in a major city such as Sydney. There needs to be national standards for our charging infrastructure. We can't have 1,000 providers asking us to provide our details on their app every single time we want to use a different charging network. Let's have a more unified approach here. There also needs to be one standard charging plug and socket, not 5, that's just ridiculous. Is there a way to bill our energy usage on the road when we charge our cars back to our home electricity account? I'm sure the logistics are possible. And finally, can we make it illegal to block an electric charging bay when it's not being used to legitimately charge an electric car? Who here is sick of being iced? Raise your hands. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed that. There's my highlights summary of the submission provided by the Tesla Owners Club of Australia to the Senate Select Committee on Electric Vehicles. Many thanks to the club's secretary for providing that submission. It's a great read and I recommend you read it yourself. I'll provide a link to all the submissions in the description below. Well, I hope it's a lovely day wherever you are in this world, and as always, happy charging.
Thanks for watching, and thanks for being part of the energy revolution. If you haven't done so already, be sure to hit subscribe to keep up to date with our latest videos. If you're about to buy a Tesla, use our promo code on screen to score $100 in supercharging credit. Happy charging!